Hey, how you doing? Jay Cormier here. String Theory, every Wednesday night. The live YouTube show where you ask the questions and we attempt to give the answers pertaining to all things string. Want to give a big shout out to our great sponsor, Glencoe Hotel at G&G Music in Antigonish, Levy Straps, Boucher Guitars, Recording King Guitars, and all of our faithful watchers and listeners. And make note of our tip jar if you want to give us a few bucks to help us buy bread and pizza and beer and pretzels and guitar picks. We got a lot of guitars to feed here, so they take a lot of strings. You can send us some money at jpcormier38@gmail.com if you want to, or paypal.me/jpcormiermusic. And thanks to everyone who's already donated over the last 4 months and kept us alive. We appreciate it so much. And we're always happy to join you here on a Wednesday night here on String Theory. So thanks a million. And yeah, so there we go. There's the opener, as we call it in the business. So anyhow, was there something I wanted to say before we started? Probably not. There's a lot of questions. I get questions. Okay, maybe I'll start with a question I've had recently, just quickly. There was a question by somebody asked how we recorded the Gunning and Cormier show, and so the answer is there were no tricks in that show. I was playing through this Aston Origin mic. That's it. Just me and the guitar through one mic, and Dave was playing through the Audio Technica, same thing. Guitar and vocal through one mic, and our pair of Audio Technica room mics that are stereo match on the walls in the studio, and that's all the sounds you heard. There was no amp, there was no guitars plugged in or anything. Matter of fact, to be quite honest with you, this pandemic has actually made all of my acoustic dreams come true, because I'm now able to perform for people basically completely acoustically through one mic, which is how I learned to play live music. No fancy technology. I just walked up to a single microphone and played and sang. And that's how I did it when I was a kid. When I went to the States, we were working bluegrass bands with 4 and 5 piece band around one microphone, including an upright bass. So yeah, this is really exciting for me to be able to do this, and even everything that you see us do here, if it's me alone, you're only hearing this mic and a little bit of the room mics, and that's it. I'm literally playing and singing and doing everything through this one microphone. So if you want a great studio mic, this Aston Origin is the best thing I've ever used. It was a Christmas gift from my brother Dave Gunning, and I'm telling you, it's the best gift I ever got, I think, for Christmas, for that sort of thing. So anyhow, I see the something else I should mention right quick too is we recently opened up our membership thing. We now have a paid membership plan, so you can go in and you can pay $2, $4, or $7 a month and get 3 different levels of special membership perks that no one else gets. And we've got quite a few people signed up. It's really exciting. So there's all kinds of little behind the scene things that are going just for the members only on my channel. So if you want to take part of those, by all means sign up. It's not expensive and it's a lot of fun. So we've already got some content up there. That's really good. Anyhow, yeah. Well, let's go to the first question. Ginger, how are we doing over there?
Good, we got lots. First one's from Cam. It's a super chat question.
Hey Cam, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you again, brother. It's always nice to have you with us.
So he says, after you've learned the major chords, what are the next 3 most important things to learn?
Well, geez. That's kind of a difficult question because I teach it all the time and I can't think of it right now. But after you learn the major chords, see, there's 2 things you have to learn after the major chords, not necessarily 3. We'll make the 3rd one be something else. And so what I'm going to tell you is this. So for every major chord, you should also learn, and this is what the third thing is the major scale that's associated with every chord. So in G, you learn your G chord and you learn your do, re, mi, fa, sol. In D, another half a scale. So you learn that for every major chord, starting from F down through the circle of fifths, F, C, G, D, A, E, right? So those are two things. So they're not in no order, but it gives you all the major chords at below the fifth fret. Then the next thing you have to learn after that is your bar chords, and basically the two you're going to learn are your barred E chords and your barred A chords. Those will give you every chord in the book up and down the neck. And then the third thing, I guess, if you split it like that, is you should learn the minors of every major chord. So the minor for F, which is inherently a barred chord. C, which is also a barred chord. G, the same thing. D, A minor, E minor, B minor. So those are the three things. If you want to take apart like the very basics, and what that'll leave you being able to do is play rhythm guitar for any song, as long as you can figure out what the chords are, and it'll leave you with enough knowledge of the major scales of all the keys to start to pick out melody, just by virtue of knowing where the notes are in each key. So there you go. That's a condensed version. If you want more information on something like that, that's way more in depth, you could sign up for Master Music Method. I know I'm turning into a pitchy arsehole, but anyhow, Master Music Method is our online school that goes into massive depth as to why you learn all those things and why they're so important in your development as a player, no matter what instrument you're playing. I teach guitar, fiddle, mandolin, and banjo all on the same site. And it's really cheap. It's like $20 a month. You have access to dozens of videos and lectures on everything. So, yeah. So there you go. Thanks a lot for the question, Cam. That's awesome. Good one. Who's next?
Rob Richardson.
That's a new one.
Maybe that's not one I recognize.
How you doing, Rob?
What advice would you give to an intermediate fingerstyle guitar player who wants to learn the 5-string banjo?
Well, you're set up for banjo. You're completely set up for banjo. If you're an intermediate fingerstyle player, banjo is just a guitar, and it has less strings, and it has a drone string, which means rolls become way more easy. I wonder if you might be able to fetch some things for me, Ginger.
What do you need?
On the credenza, there's a set of banjo picks. There's a banjo sitting right over there. So we might as well do this. This is what string theory is all about. I just wasn't expecting a banjo question. Most of my questions are concerning guitar for the most part, and they will be on the credenza somewhere.
Are you sure?
Yep. And unless I put them here, but I doubt that. Oh, yep, I have them right here. Look at that. Might as well do this, eh? We got time, don't we? All right. No, nobody's going anywhere. No rush. So, if you're an intermediate fingerstyle guitar player, you're already used to doing fingerstyle guitar, which is a very thumb-oriented kind of, patterns that are repetitious that work over every key. Well, the banjo is the same thing. So, there's only 3 or 4 rolls in the banjo to get you playing everything. And the chords are super simple, because it's, like I said, it's a guitar. It's tuned to G with a bottom D. And then a top G, which is your drone string, which allows you to do rolls that always involve that open G, and that's what gives the banjo such a tense sound. That's just a forward roll, and it's a guitar thing. Then you've got stuff like, the next thing you'd have would be like a that's a real guitar roll. It's just like playing Travis style on the guitar, except you're using, and you've got that extra top string in it. Then you've got a forward, an alternating forward roll. And those are the three that'll get you going. And they're so closely related to guitar rolls, it's not even funny. So the only thing you're going to have to get used to is wearing metal finger picks, because you can't get the tone out of a banjo without these. And you also have to use a thumb pick in case you're not using one. You just can't get by without these. Without these, you're not ever going to get the tone of a banjo player. You'll have something substandard, right? But it's easy, and if you look at the banjo as if it's a guitar, things get even easier, because you're just playing simple melody embedded in these 3 or 4 very simple rolls, right? Like I Saw the Light. It's actually easier. Like the banjo is the things that you hear in your head to play guitar. It's actually easier to do them on the banjo, because the banjo is tuned in an open key. So it instantly becomes much simpler. So yeah, I would highly recommend that you not only take up the banjo, but do it with confidence, because it can definitely be done. Here you go, Ginger. Sorry about that. I didn't even have a stand for it. So anyhow, that was a very interesting question, and a good question, and got me off on another instrument there. So you can't stump me. Well, you probably could, but we have most every instrument in the house pretty much here, just in case. I don't have a tuba or anything, but I suppose I could get one for next week. It doesn't have
strings, doesn't count.
Yeah, this is string theory, so piss on you. All right. Who's next?
Caper away.
Caper, how you doing, buddy?
Do you recommend any guitar cases for acoustic guitars?
I use a variety of them, and they're all good. As long as you're not buying something that costs like $50, you're going to get a good case. It's just that simple. There's TKL, which is a Canadian company, I believe, and Gator is another great company, and I even use padded gig bags that are also made by Gator or TKL. You don't have to buy, like I have a flight case that's made by, actually Mainstage in New Brunswick makes a case, a Calton style case. What's going on over here? Anything? Yeah?
Okay.
Is there like mice or?
No.
You keep looking at the floor and I'm scared something will bite me on the feet.
No.
So yeah, I have and it's a great company in New Brunswick called Mainstage Cases. And I have one of their cases, and it's a beautiful case. It's just like a Calton case, but it costs about half the money. And there's quite a few. I mean, you can it's possible to spend $700,000-800,000 on a guitar case, but if you're not flying constantly, there's absolutely no point. The everyday, ordinary hard shell cases, like real hard shell, preferably with an arch top, you can't go wrong. So, yeah, I mean, I buy mine right off of Amazon. There's nothing wrong with them. TKL, Gator cases. There's a wide variety of them. They're all basically the same quality, and you can drop them, from 10 feet, and your guitar is not going to get hurt. So unless you're flying, I wouldn't spend a ton of money on a hard shell case. And if you're not even traveling very much, well, I was going to say you could put them in a bag, but bags don't do as good a job of keeping humidity in the guitar or keeping it out of the case. A hard shell case, like a decent case, when you put the guitar inside it and close it and latch it, it generally will take the environment that the guitar brought in to the case and keep it there. So that's why you shouldn't leave your guitars out in a room if you're not sure of your humidity and heat and temperature extremes, because if you do, Your guitar could either dry out or swell up, and then you have bridges lifting and tops and backs cracking. If you keep things in a case, it keeps a relative humidity, whatever situation the guitar was in when you put it in the case, it's generally going to stay that way, unless you put the case out in the sun or you you go through a dry spell where it's just like 10% humidity, then you're going to get in trouble. Or the other way around. If you get like a 90% humidity for an extended period of time, no case will protect it. Not even a Colton or anything that's hermetically sealed. Another good case that I should mention is Hiscox. They're incredible cases, and they're not cheap, but they're not as expensive as a Colton. And I love those. Those are really great flight cases for not much money. So, well, comparatively speaking, I think they're about $300 to $500. But like I said, they're good for life. You can use them forever. Anyhow, there you go. There's my case pronouncement. Who's next?
Chris Murphy.
Christopher Murphy. All the way from Kingston, Ontario. I'm assuming. It could be some other Chris. Then I could be in a lot of trouble. So I was going to say something dirty. Anyhow, go ahead, Chris.
He says, can you talk a little bit about how cover songs versus original songs affect monetization on your YouTube channel?
It's very simple. If you use your own material, you get 100% of your ad royalties. If you don't use your own material, and YouTube, the bots on YouTube catch the music, because it's not people, it's machines that's listening to it. If they catch you using a cover and the machine actually recognizes it, they match it up with the publisher and writer, and then they inform you that you have been dinged. And depending on the writer and publisher and all these variables, they'll either just not let you monetize your video at all, or they'll say you're still earning money and this royalty is being shared with you by the owner. I'd say 80% of the time they share it.
We only lost monetization on one video.
Yeah, on one video out of how many? Like we've got, I don't know how many videos. We've put 50 videos up since the pandemic started. We've lost the monetization on one because the copyright owner refused to give us a dime. So they get all our ad money. And that's fine. That's completely legitimate. It's their right to do so, and I support it 1,000% because I'm a copyright owner. And but if somebody used my material and YouTube contacted me and said, this person is doing this, do you want to take all the royalties or do you want to share them? I'd always share them. Because who the hell, it doesn't matter who you are in this business. You can always stand more positive exposure. And when I say, and I make sure you understand what I said, positive exposure, right? When somebody's using your music on a platform like YouTube that's in front of 1 billion people, that's positive exposure. And the amount of money you're going to make off of one video from a guy who has, like me, who's only got about 7,000 subscribers. If I had 1 million subscribers, that'd be a little different story. They might want all the money because it's a lot of money. So, and they would realize that I'm making money off my own material on other videos. So that's the long and the short of it. There's no legal wrangling. There's no big guffaw, fluffaw, fleefy, flu. It's just
a scientific term.
Yeah, that's a scientific publishing term. If you use somebody else's music and the bots find that you're using it, and they that's what happens. And sometimes they don't, and that's fine too, because it all sort of evens each other out. The stuff that doesn't get dinged is subsidized with the stuff that does, and vice versa. So it's all quite fair. And I'm a huge proponent of what's going on online right now, because it's our only way of making a living. And as far as I can see from everything that we've experienced in the past 4 months, YouTube, companies like YouTube, CD Baby, Easy Licensing, these companies are doing a fantastic job. Because they're dealing with millions and millions of licenses and recordings, and it's all going off like clockwork. We've had no problem getting legitimate licenses for stuff. Like we had to license Viva La Vida from Coldplay, no problem, done, bang. Costs us $200 or $300, and we can use it for however long we want, as long as we don't sell too many copies of it. And it's all being done in an honor system, which is another great thing. So, like, if we buy so many licenses up front, and if we get more downloads than that, it's up to us to go in and pay again, right? Which is what it should be. If you're a professional artist and a publisher, writer yourself, you should be, cognizant of the fact that you've got obligations to other writers when you use their material. So, and I think YouTube and all these companies are doing a great job of keeping us all not only honest, but keeping us paid, which is huge right now. So that's my opinion. Take it or leave it. A lot of people will disagree, but anyhow, that's okay too. All right, who's next?
Darcy Chubbs.
Darcy is another name I don't recognize. How you doing?
Wondering what are your thoughts on the Recording King Dirty 30s 12 string?
I haven't played one yet, but I imagine they're pretty damn cool. All those Dirty 30 guitars from Recording King all have a very unique personality. And like you might have noticed that I just picked up my I usually have a Boucher sitting here or a Yamaha or something like that, but this guitar has been sitting in the stand for about a week or two now. And this is their RO 328, like the 0028 Martin style guitar. And where this thing sounds like it's supposed to sound, this thing, it's a cannon. It's just a great guitar for like $900. Their Dirty 30s guitars sound just as authentic as that does. Like that sounds like a Martin, sort of. It's not quite a Martin, but it's damn close. And the Dirty 30s are the same idea. They've built these guitars to sound like they came out of the catalog 90 years ago. 90 years ago. That's the technology they're working with new modern material and modern knowledge of how to keep it together and build it, right? So if you haven't played a 12-string 30s, I would, because I just would. I think they would probably sound incredible. You might have to do, all of these guitars have a certain amount of action adjustment that's needed, but very simple, like maybe a little truss rod thing. You might want to just check all your string heights at the nut with a spacer to make sure it's good, and your bridge height, and just those little things you can do yourself. You could end up with a guitar to just tear your head off. And it'll sound like something that's out of the catalog not 90 years ago. It'll sound like an old vintage guitar made out of spruce and plywood, like the old days. These guitars that survived, right, from the 30s and 40s, they're worth thousands and thousands of dollars now. And Recording King is building them again, and they sound authentic. So I would suspect the 12-string in the Dirty 30s range would sound pretty cool. It'll be fat and kind of boxy and woody, and not a lot of boom to it, I would think. So that's my general opinion. I've not played one yet, but I've played some of the other 30s series, and I love them. They remind me of, I don't know, they just remind me of an older time, when guitars were the working man's tool, and you didn't necessarily have a Martin or a Gibson or a Guild or a any of those things. You were working with what you could get your hands on, and there was some tremendous music made on instruments just like that, and so that's what it harkens back to for me. And I love to always have stuff like that in the studio because I am guitar rich when it comes to great sounding guitars. Like my Bouchers are among the best sounding guitars I've ever heard in my entire life. And so, but it gets a little one-dimensional if that's all I can put on a record. If I'm doing a recording and I have a beautiful Boucher doing a part, and I need something that supports that, I want a guitar that doesn't sound like it's worth $1 billion. I want a guitar that sounds earthy and organic and rich, like something that's got some age on it. And the Recording Kings are fabulous at that. I just love them. And this one here this one just sounds like a great 000 guitar. It's just, and my 28, the Dreadnought version of this, is also a really good Canon for very little money, and it takes you into that sort of realm where you're, again, it's that they sound a lot older than they are. So that's what I would expect from the 12 string. I don't know where you are, but of course G&G Music has them in Antigonish, and if he doesn't have one, he can order it. And Fantasy Music in Halifax on Spring Garden Road, they just ordered 16 of them. So they're coming into Canada with a vengeance, and a lot of people are buying them because they're so friggin' cool. So good luck at finding one. Maybe you already have and you just want my opinion. Well, there you buy it. That's my opinion. I would buy it if I could find it. Anyhow, who's next?
Brian Flynn.
Brian, how you doing, buddy?
Could you discuss your thoughts on vocal mics, studio / phone broadcast / live stage?
Well, I don't have a lot of. I just don't have a lot of probably valuable information for people because I'm not really a mic head guy. In a studio, I've used a grand total of 3 mics over the past 25 years. One was a Rode NTV. I bought the very last one that was ever built in Australia. I paid $3,400 for it like 20 years ago. And I used that mic for 12 years. I used it for every vocal that was ever cut in my studio and most of the instruments as well. And then from that, when that finally gave up the ghost, I went to a Golden Age ribbon mic, which is only a $250 mic. And I made entire albums with that. Everything I ever recorded is going through one mic. Now I'm using this Aston Origin. It's the same thing. I like multi-purpose large diaphragm condensers is what I use in the studio because I'm old school. I think that whatever the instruments are going through to sound as real as possible, the vocal should go through as well. And it changes the way you process tracks because, frankly, if you use a whole bunch of different microphones on a recording, I go back, right? When I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about the Beatles cut their albums with 4 or 5 mics onto 2 tracks. That's it. They didn't have any variety. Those albums sounded incredible. And if you go forward in the 50s and 60s in country music, it was the same thing. They had large diaphragm kind of ribbon and radio mics, and they were incredible. And everything sort of went through them. Sometimes whole bands would go through them. And that's, to me, sounded sonically the most interesting. So I use one mic a lot of times for everything, except for when I turn on these room mics. But that's because I want the sound of my instrument in the room. Again, old school. I don't want an isolation booth sound or a mechanical sound. I'm trying to get what the human ear would hear if it was sitting on the couch watching me play. That's what I want the recorder to hear. So that's for studio. For live, I've been exclusively using a Shure Beta 87 for at least 4 or 5 years now. I think they're the best vocal mic in the market. And matter of fact, I lost mine on the last tour, so I had to buy another one. But thank God they're not expensive. They're only about $200 or $300, but they are the best mic I have ever used on stage. The Shure Beta 87, and Dave Gunning turned me onto those as well. It's all he uses as well. They're just really beautiful, warm, bright top end without being gross, and they're very. You can work them, you don't have to eat them like you would a 58, right? So you can get on this thing, and if you want to be fat and close, you can get to it like that, but you can also back away from it, and it doesn't destroy the signal. It's such a clean mic and forgiving mic. So, and I need that on stage because I'm not the strongest singer. So there you go. There's my mic wisdom for the evening. All right, who's next?
Ian Rossiter.
Hey Ian, how you doing?
Says he's picking mandolin and simmering a pot of moose vegetable soup while watching.
Sweet.
Can you touch on guitar accompaniment for fiddle tunes? Loving the Master Music course as well.
That's a big question, and it's not really one I could answer. I mean, the only reason I consider myself, and I'm not saying this to be an arsehole, but I consider myself to be one of the better accompanists for fiddle music around. But there's a reason for that. It's because I'm a fiddler, and I know what I want to hear when I play the fiddle. And I also have modeled my chord ideas off of a bunch of different kinds of music. I listened to Eswood Davison, was one of my biggest heroes, who was a guitar player for Winston Fitzgerald. I listened to Don Messer, whose chord meister in that band was Waldo Monroe, one of the greatest accompanists on piano ever. And then I listened to all kinds of American fiddlers, and those guitar players like Norman Blake and all of Bill Monroe's guitar players, like those rhythm players they knew what they were doing, right? And then I because I'm a fiddler, I understand what I want to hear. And so it's hard to describe to someone how to get to be a great accompanist for fiddle, because it's not easy. It's if you want to learn it, you have to listen to someone who does it. And the best guy in the world, bar none, is Tim Eadie. He's the greatest guitar accompanist for any kind of music, but Celtic music especially, or fiddle music of any kind. He is a god. He has more ideas and more flair while still being not overpowering than any guitar player I've ever witnessed in my entire life. He's an absolute genius. The guy deserves every medal, all of the medals. And those are the kind of people you should listen to. Him, John Doyle is another guy who's one of the greatest accompanists that's ever picked a guitar up. And what you'll find out from listening to guys like that is that we all do a similar thing. We play the right chords first. We figure out, and we would all treat us the same tune differently too. That's the magic of accompaniment. We all figure out the chords where they're supposed to be, and then we decide. Basically, the magic of it is deciding what bass note am I going to play over this chord. Is it going to be the 1? Is it going to be the 3? Is it going to be the 5? Right? That's those questions, right? And how and substitutions, like playing a relative minor instead of the 1. So, like if you're starting a passage that's in D, don't play D, play B minor. Those kind of choices, right? And it's impossible to teach. But it's not impossible to learn. It's really easy to learn if you just pay attention to what's going on. The best way to look at it is listen to all these people, and then when you hear something you really, really love and you can't figure it out, ask a guitar player, what is this? How is he doing this? And they'll tell you, like I would tell you, unless I would doubt that anybody could play anything I couldn't figure out eventually. Been doing it that way for 46 years. If you found something that John Doyle did or Tim did or Seamus Egan was another great musician, another great player. There's just so many of them, right? And you found something that they did, and you're going, wow, what was that? That's when you need to go to a teacher or a mentor or just somebody that you feel will know how it's done. And then you learn that little bit, and then you start applying that to your own style. And that's how you grow it. It's not an overnight thing. It's even, I would dare say, and people might be shocked at this, but I think it's much more difficult to be a great accompanist than it is to be a great lead player. Anybody can play a lead line because it requires you're not carrying anything except the lead. And that's unto itself, right? The real magic in music is the guy who's making the lead sound good. That's because without the rhythm and the chord structure and the movement and the bass line and the rhythm and the cadence that's in the accompaniment, the lead has no meaning. And lead players, which I'm also a lead player, obviously, I need that to feed off of. So generally speaking, any player playing with a great accompanist plays better than when he plays with himself, by himself, right? So, yeah, it's a very deep subject, but that's how I would tell you to go. Listen to Tim Eadie, listen to John Doyle. If you can find anything in mine that you like, go ahead. Because I think I've done some pretty interesting ideas, but they're all stolen. Eventually, if you go back far enough, we all stole all of our ideas, right? And just pick out the stuff you like the best. If you can't figure it out on your own, check your tuning, like what tuning's being used, because I play rhythms in standard, open G, dad fad. I never use dad gad. I tune my G back to an F sharp, so it's D-A-D, F sharp, A-D. And I said open G, and drop D, a lot of drop D, just straight drop D stuff. So, and those are the ways you get all those great voicings and bass lines and moving chords, right? So, yeah, we could do a whole video on it. I'm probably going to end up doing videos on it on Master Music Method, I would think. Eventually, I'd probably have to do it. Good question, good question. Who's next?
Next is Michael Snyder.
Michael.
He's a member.
Member, all right.
Any chance?
Welcome, and thank you for signing up.
Any chance you do a private lesson? He wants to learn Blue Angel.
I don't do private lessons very, very seldom because of my schedule. But you're welcome to reach out to me through my fan page on Facebook, and when we may be able to talk about it. But I can't make any promises. But I appreciate you asking me. But we'll just have to play it by ear. It's a very hectic time right now. So, and I love to teach. And if you want to learn Blue Angel, the first thing I could probably do for you is send you a copy of my book, which has the tablature for it right off of Primary Colors in the book. Maybe that could start you with that. So reach out to us on Facebook, my JP Cormier fans page, and just drop me a note, and we'll talk about trying to get you a book, and that'll get you started at least. And then if you need help after that, maybe we can put a quick Skype lesson together for you to go over the difficult parts. There's enough of them, believe me. Who's next?
Kenneth Innes.
Another new name.
What are your feelings of capos being used on mandolins? He doesn't think it's right.
Capos on people who use capos on mandolins should be shot in the face with a ball of their own feces. That's just a general opinion. Like either that or drugged behind a truck until all of their clothes are ripped off, and you just leave them on the front porch of Dairy Queen.
That's very specific.
So, I don't like it, and it shouldn't be done. It's ridiculous. You should never put a capo on a mandolin. The mandolin doesn't need a capo. That's the whole point of the mandolin. Everything on the mandolin is movable and closed. So if you can't play that way, you're not doing it right. And you should learn the right way because it's not hard. So it's physically hard on the hand, but it's not hard to learn. You can do it all. And if you don't know, you should learn. Because it's like saying, you can't put a capo on a fiddle. It's the same instrument, just has no frets. So why would you put one on a mandolin? So, anyhow, enough said. I'll see you at Dairy Queen. Okay, who's next?
It's Jim Hanlon.
Jimmy Hanlon, Triple J.
Also a member.
Also a member. Mm-hmm. Ahaha.
It says, I've been privileged to hear your cover recordings from bluegrass to Sting. Will you ever release some of these songs?
Well, I have a ton of material that never has seen the light of day. And one day, maybe now is the time that I'll just throw it out, because it'll be, it's hard to say what's going to happen with the recording industry and stuff. I may just end up putting stuff out digitally, so, which is a lot cheaper and a lot easier for licensing and stuff than putting up physical copies. So you never know, might come out. But yeah, I get a lot of stuff in the back there. It's never been out. I probably get 200 or 300 sides that nobody's ever heard. Mostly stuff that I just love and covered because I love it and love the artist and listened to it all my life. So people like Sting. I know Jimmy's thinking about maybe some of the Indigo Girls I did and I've done a lot of material. A lot of material. Everything from Roy Orbison to the Beach Boys, to Sting, to Bach, to whatever. I just love all of it. The Beatles, done all that stuff. But it's fun. Everybody should do that. You should always learn and play and copy and emulate your heroes. That's how you learn how to play. So, thanks for that question, Jenny. Love you, buddy. Ginger, how's it going?
Mike Vincent.
Another new name.
Can you do a comparison between the Alvarez BDG 60 and Recording King RD 328?
I would, but I don't have the Alvarez anymore. Where did that go? What did I do with that? I can't remember.
Is it in the house?
Oh, I gave it to my brother Joe.
Oh.
I gave it to my brother because he didn't have a decent dreadnought, so I took it down to him. Now, what was the guitar you wanted to compare it to?
The 328 Recording King.
I can tell you right now, they're going to be very similar. And the Alvarez is going to have a slightly bigger sound because the finish is thinner. And that's it. The only difference that you're going to find, and that I found, and it might have just been my guitar, but I found that the Alvarez had some fit and finish problems. Like potential cracking around binding, cracking on the binding at the neck, those type of things. And I also found that I couldn't quite get the action right on it to where it was low enough for me to play, but not so low it was buzzing. And that's troublesome. And I'm not sure what was causing that. I did a bunch of adjustment on it, but I never could get it really doing what I wanted it to do. But I'm fussy. I'm really fussy. So you can't put a lot of stock in that. That guitar might just totally kick ass for you, because you have stronger hands than me, or you're whatever. Right? It's so subjective, right? But that's what I found about the guitar. I love the sound of it, and it really did do a number on the Martin. It's a bad one, and but that's the difference. I would say that the Recording King is going to have slightly less boom, and because the Recording King has a thicker finish. The Alvarez has a matte finish, and it's mahogany, and the RD 328 is rosewood, solid rosewood, against solid mahogany. So it's uneven. It's an uneven match. This mahogany is brighter and boomier, and rosewood is more subdued, darker, richer kind of sound, right? So you can literally choose between the two based upon what you want. Do you want a big, fat, kind of muddy bottom and not much top end with the Alvarez, or do you want a more subdued bottom but still there, clean, with a more penetrative top end? That's the difference between the two guitars. I can tell you without even playing them together. I know exactly what they both sound like. But again, I might have just got a bad Alvarez, and that's quite possible. All these guitars are just factory made. It's all good, right? So, but I did find some potential problems with that guitar that if I was going to take that guitar on the road, it might not have survived the extremes that I put guitars through, because I put them through extremes of heat, cold, no humidity, full humidity. My guitars have to be really, really tough to survive even a single tour. So anyhow, wish you luck either way. They're both great guitars. And they're both about the same price. The Recording King might be slightly more expensive, but that's the only difference. So you're really just looking at tone and wood preference. So there you go. I hope you picked the right one. I hope you're happy with it. All right, who's next?
Dan Smithson.
Another new one.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever played or seen a Frames guitar from Germany? And a 12-string that was amazing. What am I trying to say? I'm not sure.
I surely have seen a Framus. They're famous. Famous. They're one of my buddies, Frank Duty, had a Framus banjo, and it was killer. And I've played Framus 12 strings. I've played all kinds of Frame-I. So yeah, they're a tremendously good guitar. Again, a guitar similar kind of background as Recording King. They were a German catalog guitar. and who became sort of a really commercial mainstream kind of company, and they still make instruments as far as I know. I don't think they're out of business. I could be wrong about that. I hope they're not, because they were really friggin' cool guitars, and yeah, I love them. And if you have one and it's a nice one, don't sell it, because it's worth money. It'll get worth more money, because they're sought after a lot these days. So let me see. Oh geez, we got time for a few more. We're gonna have
Good, we have some more.
we have a question. We have a contest yet tonight, so don't forget about that.
Mm-hmm.
Who's next?
Next is Shane Arsenault.
Hey,
Have you ever used wooden or stone picks?
I've used both, and I can't use either. Wooden picks fall apart, and stone picks tear the winding off my strings. So that's it. That's all I got for you. Some people use them. I can't. Stone's way too abrasive and damaging to the strings, and potentially to the top of the guitar. And I play so hard that wood just splinters. It's useless to me. But that's just me. So there you go. Who's next?
Michael Easter.
Michael Easter again.
Mhm.
Michael Easter. How you doing?
Yeah. Where can we buy the tab book for primary color?
You can't really buy it anywhere. We have like maybe a dozen copies of it left, the last on the planet. Again, if you want to order one of those, get in touch with me through my Facebook page, JP Cormier fan page. Drop us a line, and we'll probably be able to mail you one. But like I'm saying, I don't think we have a dozen left. I only printed 700 of those, and I did that 16 years ago, and it didn't sell worth a shit. And I got very frustrated about that, because I put 2 years of work into that with Russell Soller. Russell transcribed it for me over, like we did it over the phone, and like Russell's a genius. He completely deconstructed my playing, and his tablature work in that book is flawless. It is exactly what I played. Even the mistakes are in there. And we put so much work into that and couldn't sell 700 copies of that book. So, yeah, I've got the last 10 or 12 in the garage sitting in a pile there somewhere before the mice eat them. So if you want one, you better do it soon. Anyhow, like I said, go to my fan page on Facebook, drop us a note. We'll try to mail you one, okay? All right, love you. Who's next?
Cam wants to know if you'll consider making String Theory a 3-hour show.
Cam needs to kiss my arse, because this is really cutting into my drinking time. I'm only kidding, Cam. I appreciate it. 90 minutes is enough, I think. Most people must be getting bored by now. How many people will get on tonight?
62 right now.
Wow, that's great.
It's not 90 minutes though, it's 60.
Oh yeah, 60. That's right too. Well, we're definitely not doing 3 hours in that case. Is it? Did I see a super chat go by there?
Yeah, that was Cam.
Oh, Cam. Thanks, Cam.
So next is Tim Bennett.
Tim, I know that
back in
name.
Nova Scotia.
Yes, yes.
Taiwan.
Oh, right. I knew that name. You're back home. That's fantastic.
What's your opinion of using your left thumb for fretting the low E string? Is that considered cheating?
Do it all the time. All the time. And Chet Atkins did it all the time. And Tommy Emmanuel does it all the time. And so did Merle Travis. And so does Doc Watson. It's not cheating at all. And so did Django Reinhardt. Django Reinhardt invented it because he only had 3 fingers. Django played with these 2 fingers and that knuckle. That's all that was left of his hand. The rest of it was burnt and fused to his palm. So he had to use his thumb to get bass notes, and that's where it sort of came from. Everybody does it. I do it continually. I use my thumb all the time. And if you watch Tommy Emmanuel, he'll do things where he actually has his thumb moving around through chords where he moves it around. He can do those kind of things, and move the thumb all down and keep the chord on the neck while he's moving the thumb, which is insane, but he has humongous hands and I don't. So, absolutely, you keep using that thumb, both of them. Use the Chet side and the thumb side over here. Thumbs galore. Thumb pickers took over the world. All right, who's next?
Jim Hanlon.
Jimmy again.
Mm-hmm. How do you rate your reissue of the Yamaha 180 Red Label versus the rest of your herd?
it's in the top 3. That guitar is supernatural. That's one of the greatest guitars I've ever owned. I will never sell it. It's right up there with the Bouchers, and because it is. It's just incredible guitar. I don't know how they did it, but they only made about 180, apparently 180 of them, possibly 200. I'm not sure. You'd have to play one to understand what I mean. It's basically a 60s D18 Martin. That's what it sounds like, only better. It's just a banjo killer, and the neck is to die for. The tone is to die for. It's loud it's just a cannon. So, yeah, I can't say enough about it. I paid a good deal of money for it, and rightfully so. For a Yamaha, it was quite expensive, and I want to thank Tony's Music Box in Fredericton for holding that for me and getting it for me, and selling it to me, because I would have never found it otherwise. So, thanks to the boys up at Tony's, who are also Boucher dealers, by the way. I'm not sure if they're carrying Recording King. Maybe we should check that out. So yeah, it's a beast. If you ever able to get your hand on one of those things, the 50th anniversary FG180, buy it. Don't even buy it sight unseen if you have to. Buy it, for sure. Who's next?
Scott McCone.
Scotty McCone.
Do you have a specific theory or goal when composing a song intro on guitar? Do you have a fave from your own catalog?
A what?
A favorite from your own catalog.
Of?
A song intro.
Oh.
Specific theory or goal?
Well, that's sort of a hard question. You ask good questions, Scotty. It's I'm not sure exactly how to answer that. I'm going for I guess I suppose I fall into one of two schools. I'm either trying to do an intro that is following the melody, like a tag of the melody, and I'm trying to make it interesting and short to get into the song, or I'm trying to come up with some epic thing that's not related to the melody at all, and that becomes the thing. So it's weird. It depends on the song. Like the intro. Let's take for instance the intro for the Molly May. The intro for the Molly May is just the chord structure, but the way the voices are played makes it very interesting. So that's how it got to be there. And then you have the intro for the Messenger, which is this huge kind of classical sounding opusy weird thing that repeats 3 times and then ends in this huge, flourish into the actual chord structure of the tune. So there's 2 different schools going on there. There's me trying to be fancy and me trying to be true to the melody. And when I try to be fancy, I try to make it extra interesting so that it's something I would want to play live every night that the audience isn't going to get bored of, and that it doesn't sound like I'm forcing it. I want it to sound like it should be attached to the song. That's the most important thing about an intro, is that you make sure it actually belongs there. That's the most important thing. So we're going to have our trivia question. Thanks, Scotty, for that. Now this week, we have a great prize this week. I was talking to Glenn today. He's doing fantastic down there. They're moving Bouchers and Recording Kings like mad dogs down there. So this week's prize is, of course, your beautiful Levy strap with the G&G logo on it, a set of strings of your choice, and this week, for 30 days, I think he's going to do this, or maybe 2 weeks. He'll let you know, but you'll have some time to go get this. Anybody who buys a Boucher guitar, Glenn's throwing in a $400 pickup free. So you can either get the G&G pickup, which is all that I use in all of my guitars, or you can get a Fishman Matrix. $400 value, free.
I think you mean K&K pickup.
What did I say?
G&G.
Oh, shit. K&K pickup. Yeah, sorry. Did I say G&G?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want from me? So, yeah, you get a free K&K pickup, M&M pickup, or a Matrix. For it's a $400 value, free. So if you go in and you buy a Boucher, free pickup this week. Glenn will let you know how long he's extending that offer when you get a hold of him. So anyhow, I'm going to hit you guys out of left field, and I know Scott McCone's listening to this. He's probably going to win this, but you can't because you've already won the last month. So I'm going to tell you some things you might not know about me. One of the things that you might not know about me is that I am an avid, and always was an avid fan of neoclassical heavy metal shredders. I listen to Yngwie Malmsteen, Steve Vai, Randy Rhoads, any number of those guys. When I was a kid, I was fascinated with their speed and their technicality, and the fact that they were playing these neoclassical ideas, because I was such a fan of Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin, all of those guys. Well, there was one guy in particular, and his name was Joe Satriani. And he was one of the guys that I emulated, him and Yngwie Malmsteen, where I actually learned the technique I used to shred tunes with, like the Mathematician. All of those speed tricks I use with my right hand, I learned it from them. And Joe Satriani was, and still is, a total genius, one of the greatest players of our time. He had a song, a tune. There was no lyrics to it. It was a beautiful ballad. It was called Always With Me, Always With You. What was the name of the album that song appeared on?
Oh, you got it.
Who is it?
Tommy Roach.
Tommy Roach. The answer was?
Surfing with the Alien.
Surfing with the Alien. Tommy Roach, you have it right. So what you're going to do is you're going to send an email, Tommy, to jpcormier38@gmail.com. Send me an email. I'll forward you on to Glenn at G&G Music, and you can pick up your strap, your strings, and if you're going to buy a boucher from him in the next, I guess, 30 days maybe or so, he'll probably extend it. You get a free pickup install with the guitar, which is friggin' awesome. Especially the K&Ks. That's the best one you can buy. Unless you want a volume control, then you'll have to go with the Fishman Matrix. But the K&K, best thing I've ever used. So we got time for one more quick question. And really quick, I'll do one really fast. So get me a quick one.
Jim wants to know what your favorite lyric of everything you've written is. That's the only other question left.
And the answer is, well, I don't know. I have no idea. I have to think that would take me several days to even figure that out. I'll work that out. I'll work that out for next week. And yeah, it might surprise you what would be my favorite lyric I've ever written. So anyhow, I want to thank you all for being here. It's fabulous, fabulous times. Every Wednesday night we get excited here, and so don't miss us every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Atlantic time. Special thanks to Glenn Gotel, G&G Music and Eddie Ganesh, Boucher Guitars, Robin, Guillaume, Julian. Love you guys. Levy Straps, Ashley down at Recording King Guitars, Fantasy Music in Halifax, and all of the people that are signing up for our memberships and watching us here. Again, the tip jar if you want to help us out, jpcormier38@gmail.com for indirect transfers, or paypal.me/jpcormiermusic. We love you guys. And just remember, if you're a guitar player, whoever has the most of them, they die, wins. See you next week.